Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Demon Head, Viscera, out January 29th on Metal Blade Records. This album has 10 tracks, 36 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. These guys are from Denmark. They're a doom metal band that dive into the occult, and I think this is an important element, not only from a lyrical perspective, but how the album feels, how it sounds, the atmosphere that it has. I think if you understand this getting into the record and getting into this review, you'll be able to understand better what this album is all about. Now, getting into the record, I felt like this was a very linear, straightforward album. And what I mean by straightforward, I don't mean like this is an easy to digest kind of record, because it's not. There's a lot of layers to it. It's an album that's going to take you a long time to process. You really have to listen to it. You really have to be absorbed by it, let yourself get lost in it in order to get the most out of this album. But it's straightforward in terms of not having any deviations. There's no peaks, there's no valleys. This is an album that just moves in one direction. Now, it always moves very slowly. Sometimes it may feel like it's going perhaps a little bit faster, or that it has a little bit more of an intensity to it, but I think that all comes from the overall atmosphere that's created. It's created within the tracks, it's created within the interlude tracks. This is an album that has a lot of interlude tracks mixed in within the overall track listing. And I felt that those interlude tracks did two roles. One, it connected the songs. It allowed them to have intros and outros without actually being part of the songs itself. So if you're listening to this album on Spotify and you're listening to just the songs, you're skipping out these interludes, you still get the essence of the tracks, you still get the essence of the record. But when you're listening to it from the first song to the last song, and those interlude tracks are built into the overall experience, you get a different feel. You no longer get the Coles notes, you get the full picture of what this album is about, the atmosphere that it creates, how it puts all of these songs into one basket, and you really feel like this is one element, not necessarily a collection of songs. The songs are there, but they're there in prol of the unity that the album has to offer to the listener, the experience that the album has to offer to the listener, to that atmosphere, to that feel that you get when you progress from the first song all the way to the last. So the interlude tracks play two roles. One, moving the songs along, moving your experience along without increasing intensity, without increasing tempos. And two, create that overall atmosphere that permeates throughout the whole record and becomes part of the listening experience. Now, as far as Soundscape is concerned, this is an album that is not driven by one element. I can't say that the guitars are pushing this record forward, because I don't feel sound-wise this album has been pushed by one specific element. The overall sound of this record is worth for its whole. The same thing as the album. The guitars are there, the bass is there, the drums are there, but they're all working together in unison in order to create this unity of sound that comes across with every single song. There's not one track where the drums are heavy, or there's not one track where the guitars take more of a center stage. No, they're always there in a balanced approach, really balanced out as far as the portions are used in terms of each single one of these elements to really create a strong sound, a strong presence, but perhaps more important, an atmosphere. To me, this album is all about the atmosphere that it has, the atmosphere that you get from the lyrics, the atmosphere you get from the vocals, and definitely the atmosphere that you get from the combination of sounds coming out of the guitars, bass, and drums. And that is what you're going to get from this album. If there's actually one element that's pushing this record forward at any given time, it's the vocals. And I love the vocals on this record. To me, they were the bright spot of this album. I love how they sound, I love the tone, I love the delivery, but perhaps more important, I love the layers. I love the backing vocals. The layers that they constructed surrounding the vocals really give intensity. They really give power, strength, not necessarily heaviness, but definitely power and strength to how this album comes across. They ignite the atmosphere that the record has. And the way they used the backing vocals was really interesting. When they wanted to bring the intensity to the forefront, when they wanted you to pay a little bit more attention to what was happening within the song, the backing vocals came in and they expanded the walls of sound. They made the song feel bigger. They made the song feel more important. They grabbed your attention. You were allowed yourself to focus on that specific spot of the track. So I thought the backing vocals played a very important key role in how this album sounds and how it feels and how it progresses. And if, like I said earlier, if there's one element that's really pushing this slow burning record across the finish line, it's the vocals. Now, overall, I felt that this album felt empty at times. There are too many interlude tracks. While I understand the purpose of those tracks in order to create this overall atmosphere, binding the whole record together, making it feel as one, creating intros and outros, I understand all of those elements, and they're important for a record that has this sort of design, that has this sort of approach. But having said all of that, I still felt like there was too many of them, and it started to take away, it started to corrode the impact of the album itself. This is a record that it started off very strong, started off very powerful. Some of the better tracks on the album are in the first half of the record, and then you start to dilute the power, the strength of the album, going more into a straight atmosphere sound with all these interludes as you start to move into the second half of the record. So to me, this is an album that's divided into two halves, a much stronger half at the beginning versus the end, and overall an album that starts to feel empty, that starts to lose a little bit of its oxygen, the air starts to come out of the balloon as you progress. And to me, the main reason for that is the overuse of all of these interlude songs. Now, moving into my favorite tracks on the album, I want to start off with Tooth and Nail. This is the first song of the album. It's the opening track, great guitar sound. The vocals have layers, they add volume, they add presence, they add atmosphere, and make the song feel darker. And that's always one of the elements that I felt that the backing vocals mixed in with the vocals added to the overall experience. They made the tracks feel more somber. They grabbed your attention and not necessarily make the song heavier. They didn't take anything away from how it feels. They just grabbed your attention and kept you glued to the track once they came in, once they were there. And I think this is a very important element, an element that's present in this song, the first track of the record, and it stays true as you move across the rest of the album. The guitars also have a somber feel at times in this song. They kind of deviate, they move from the more melodic to the more somber, but they're not necessarily there to dictate where the song is going. They're there just to create a baseline, to create an atmosphere. The vocals are more the ones in control of where this song is heading. And then next, the Feline Smile. I love this track. This is the second track, and it really continues where the Tooth and Nail left off. A lot of the same atmospheric elements, a lot of the same song construction style is present in both songs, and there's a feeling of continuation. There's a feeling of progression as you move from one song into the next. The vocals, once again, are the drivers of this song. They feel like they drive the overall experience that the track has to offer. The backing vocals add strength, add power, add emotion, but never really heaviness. I never feel like the songs get heavier. They just feel more emotionally charged, more emotionally driven. The guitars continue to have this dark and melodic approach. I felt in this song perhaps more than Tooth and Nail, specifically when it gets into the chorus. This is a track that has a little bit of a change, that it morphs, that has a little bit more to offer to the listener. You go through these really deep valleys through the verses, and then you come out and there's a little bit of a sense of a light at the end of the tunnel once you get to the chorus. It's not a song that's one-dimensional all the way through, so you start to feel like this is a more dynamic track that has a little bit more to offer. And in my opinion, this is the best song on the album because of all of these elements coming together. Last but not least, Magical Death, slow burning track, really slow burning track. This song moves at an extreme slow pace. The vocals come in, they feel like they're coming from deep into the mix. They have power, they have darkness, they're somber, not just from the delivery, but where they're coming from, how they sound, and the overall approach and how they mix with the rest of the elements that the track has to offer. This put all together makes the song feel really slow, really dark, really somber, almost like it's not moving at times. And if it's moving, it's crawling. It's not moving, it's crawling. Now the drums add a little bit of heaviness on this track, perhaps one of the tracks where you start to feel the drums peeking in, having a little bit more presence, coming in a little bit stronger, not throughout the whole song, but at times. They do add a little bit of spice of how this whole track is put together. But overall, when you look at the big picture of this song, this feels like a very linear, straightforward track. There's not a lot of deviations. Even the drums coming in at times with a little bit more power, a little bit more intensity, does not change the direction of the track. It doesn't pull the track into a different path. The track is always moving in one direction. Moving slow, but moving in one direction. There are some added elements that change your perception of the track, but you still feel like you're going where the track is taking you. This is it, guys. This is Demon Head with Viscera, out January 29th on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.